Today we are going to be processing pumpkins left over from Halloween to make pumpkin puree. So we have lots of pumpkin puree ready to go come next fall. I am starting out by cutting off the top. It just makes it a lot easier to cut down the middle when the stem is no longer there. And thinking about this now, I probably should have put the excess stuff in our compost, not the seeds, but the stem and a couple other things that I cut off the edges of the pumpkin in our compost instead of just throwing them away. But oh well, it is what it is now, and it will disintegrate in the dump, same as it would in our garden. So we are cutting this in half, and then once I trim a little bit of the pieces that were getting soft, I'm going to scoop out all the insides. Scooping out the insides can be a bit of a chore, so I got our scissors because this is kind of a stringy pumpkin, and I was cutting up some of the strings and then scooping and cutting and scooping, and it's just kind of a decent process. It takes a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know, didn't time myself, but it feels like forever. But anyways, so you want to get all that out of there, and then we are just going to use for the puree the 1 to 2 inch shell that is around the pumpkin, and we will be peeling off the skin. Once we get everything nice and cored, we are going to preheat our oven to 400 degrees. And once that is fully preheated, we will get our baking sheet out and a nice large piece of parchment paper, and then also spray the parchment paper. You just don't want it to burn and stick. Using our parchment paper, we'll spray it and then lay the pumpkin cut side down so the skin is facing you. And you don't have to worry about cutting it up really small. You can place the entire half of the pumpkin on there and it will cook just fine. Doesn't need to be in pieces. If you have a really tiny oven where it won't fit, then you probably need to cut it up and cook more or one at a time. But I have a standard oven and it fits just fine. So we will put this in the oven for 60 minutes. Seems like a long time, but you really want that inner crust to get nice and soft. And then the longer it's in there, the skin will just start to kind of puff up and peel away from the inside of the pumpkin, and that makes it easiest to take the skin off and then later puree it. So taking these out of the oven, I want to show you how easy it is to skin this baby. So we're just going to start with a knife and just kind of peel it back, and it should really just peel right off of there. It shouldn't be like, if you're having to kind of cut it, you need to cook it longer, because it should really just easily peel off and should not give you a ton of headache. I know the first year I did my own pumpkins, that happened to me. I did not cook it long enough. I thought I was gonna burn the pumpkin, and I ended up like using a knife to basically cut the rest of the skin off, and you should not have to do that. So if it is tough to get off, pop it back in the oven for 20 minutes longer, and then it should be good. So once we get all of the skin off, we are going to be pureeing our pumpkin into a nice smooth puree. So I'm adding this to a bowl, and then I'm going to use my immersion blender to really smooth this out and chop everything up and get it all blended. I do also try to use it or chop it up in a blender, and that just does not work very well. I thought my new blender would work really well to puree this, and it just doesn't. It's not as powerful as I need, and the immersion blender just inevitably works so much better. If you have a food processor, I do not have one of those. Should probably get one, but I do not have one, and that would work fantastic for doing this as well. So I would recommend either a food processor or an immersion blender, and you'll be all set. Okay, we are going to package up our pumpkin puree now, and I'm gonna hopefully get 2 cups of pumpkin puree in every food saver bag that we use, because that I saw this last year when I was making a lot of pumpkin stuff last fall, that worked really well. Most recipes call for a cup or 3/4 cup, and then I can make like 2 things at once, like pumpkin pancakes or muffins or whatever I'm doing. I can kind of make multiple batches of stuff, and it works really well. So we are going to use my really awesome food saver. That we use this for meat, soups, lots of stuff. It's so handy. Okay, let's see, how big do I want my bags? So I'm gonna go with this, and hopefully this fits 2 cups of pumpkin puree. And this is just a great way to preserve your pumpkins. Like, I know a lot of people, you know, you go to the pumpkin patch, you spend $40 on a couple pumpkins, if not 80 or more, like they can be expensive, and then you just throw them away. And I just hate basically throwing money down the drain. So this is a great way to reuse them and then use the puree next year to make muffins or cakes or pumpkin bars. Just a lot of great stuff. Okay, let's see if this all fits in here. I really need to get some of those bag holders. I've seen some people have like clips that the bag holds it open. I need to get some of those. I think that's enough space here. We'll see when I go to vacuum seal it, but I think that should be enough space to get a good seal on there. Nice. And if you've never used a vacuum sealer before, it vacuums it and then it seals it nicely at the top there. So then it's not gonna come out. Okay, and then I'm gonna get a Sharpie and write on here, 2 cups pumpkin puree. So that was really quick and easy. I have 4 bags, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bags of 2 cups each, so 8 total cups of pumpkin puree. In previous years, I have done, this is only from 1 pumpkin, and previous years, I have done 2 or 3 pumpkins and then had like 20 to 30 cups of pumpkin left. And I think this will be just right for fall to make a few recipes. So I'm not at all worried about this. I did have more than 1 pumpkin, but I waited a little longer than usual to process them, and they were already starting to mold and get bad. So just went with 1 this year, and that'll be perfectly fine. And then next year I can do more if I figure out that we need more than 8 cups of pumpkin puree, but I doubt it. It should be good. So I really hope you found this video helpful and you are able to also easily now process your own pumpkins and make your own pumpkin puree, and also store them and not have to worry about scouring the stores and finding pumpkin puree in the fall. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Thanks, y'all.